America's banks start reporting earnings tomorrow. We've got JP Morgan and Wells Fargo, and next week a whole host of other ones follow suit. The interesting thing about this quarter, though, is that a lot of people and investors probably won't be focusing much on the actual earnings. Everyone knows they've not been particularly good the last 3 months, but also most of the banks have other things going on. We've got the LIBOR scandal. JP Morgan tomorrow, of course, will have to deal with the London whale issue. And then the one bank which seems to be doing well is Wells Fargo because of its mortgage operation. But even that, Agnes, you've been looking at that. Even their mortgages operation isn't something that's particularly fantastic long term.
I mean, I think it's very exciting for investors short term, right? Because I think they're going to be doing very well for the last quarter because of, we've seen an uptick in origination. But what's happened over the last year is Wells Fargo has this dominant position.
And by dominant, this is far bigger than we've seen before in this market,
Exactly.
Right?
They basically are originating about a third of the mortgages. That's about 3 times as the size of JP Morgan, which is the next biggest.
If we go back a couple of years, Bank of America, of course, went around buying up as much as they could. They bought Countrywide in 2008, the wonderful Countrywide, which left them with what they said at the time was a 20% market share. How good is that?
Exactly.
But what's happened to B of A?
Well, B of A is now down to about a 4% market share, as they basically, after going all in on mortgages, have really pulled back.
Why is this, my question is, why is this a short-term thing? Because I was reading a Goldman Sachs note talking about there's like $5 trillion worth of mortgages that are refinance eligible based on credit and everything like that. It sounds like, and obviously not all $5 trillion of that will get done, but it sounds like that's a pretty healthy business going forward.
No, and it is a healthy business. I mean, I guess when I'm saying short term, I'm saying like, this quarter, next quarter, because a lot of these refinancings also are government programs, and presumably at some point interest rates are going to go up, right? And then it becomes a slightly different business. But I think the issue here is that, we just to step back, with banks being very large, we have one bank that is now dominating home mortgages, right? If anything were to happen to this bank, we have a problem on our hands. One is because they also service the loans, which means they do all the paperwork behind the loans. That is incredibly difficult to replicate.
And just to be clear, the issue isn't, as you're saying, it's not like 2007, 2008, where suddenly every bank started losing lots of money, because of course most of these mortgages, 95% are government guaranteed. It's not the credit risk necessarily you're talking about. It's just the fact they are huge lenders, and especially the service.
Exactly, and they're at the center of it. I mean, and that's an issue that I think is not healthy for a mortgage market.
So it's fine for Wells, but
right. I mean, the irony, of course, is that the mortgages are now sort of the tailwind for the banks because the markets are just terrible, right? So trading has been bad. M&A has been down. IPOs, Facebook aside, have been,
but
there's still a lot of work for Florida. But
most of the big banks are pulling back in one way or another from mortgages. I mean, that's the interesting thing, and that's why Wells is really sticking out right now because they've gone big time into mortgages.
And we're seeing a lot of good news about the mortgage market too, in terms of, good news relative.
Exactly.
In other words, a lot of people are calling a bottom now. So
a bank like JP Morgan, as we've seen, we've got the London whale issue tomorrow, which is because it had 300 billion of excess deposits it wasn't lending out. Well, they have the balance sheet to make loans on mortgages. Now, I doubt they're going to do that, but tomorrow I think the big thing for them is going to be what happens with this massive loss they generated. But look, we'll be keeping an eye on all of these banks, and we'll be back tomorrow with more breaking views.